Hazbin Hotel Season 2 is here, and we are going to use it to talk about villains. How to write good ones, and how to write bad ones. I'm going to put it on the table right now. I am obsessed with Vox, the TV-headed man, for those that do not know. He is not the first nor the last TV-headed man I will be obsessed with, but I will try not to let my bias impact this video. Okay. Hi, I'm Connie Glynn, writer and disgusting little Hazbin Hotel fan. Here is me cosplaying Fizzarolli as evidence of my crimes. I talk about writing and publishing conundrums in pop culture, and today we're going to be talking about writing good villains. What makes a good villain? What makes a fandom love your villain? What makes them hate your villain? And most importantly, can they be redeemed? All of this will be explored, and we will be using Hazbin Hotel to do so. Good villains, other than being an egregious oxymoron, have been a pickle for writers for eons. People love a good villain, and it can literally make or break your story. It's probably the thing I spend the most time thinking about when I am drafting my books. Okay, yeah, I'm going to shoehorn in my book news right here. Curse Melodies Book 2 is officially up for pre-order. We have the title, we have the cover. The Darkest Duet is probably the darkest and gayest thing I have ever written. The paperback of book 1 and book 2 are launching basically simultaneously, and the book 1 paperback has a secret special extra story all about the rapscallions before they did that thing that they did. No spoilers for people who are uninitiated. Link below to start your Curse Melodies paperback collection. There are no hardbacks, by the way. There's no more hardbacks. It was just the first book special hardback. Curse Melodies is a paperback series. I'm so sorry for any confusion. If you want a matching collection, it's gonna have to be the paperbacks. My bad, my bad. But yeah, please buy it. I want my publisher to like me. You better buy it. And yes, there is much more Jonas and Teddy content for the people who have been asking. And it's got really good villains, if you know what I mean. Anyway, where were we? I've seen enough of you freaks, hear me out cakes, to know that many of you, like me, are down bad for a good villain.
My next one is Ratatouille.
Hazbin Hotel is an adult cartoon set in hell. Please remember, it is for adults. Adult content will be discussed. It's a unique setting from the get-go because it's set in hell. You are aware from the context, or at least you should be, that many, if not all of these characters, have sinned. In theory, every sinner in Hazbin Hotel is a bad guy, and yet some of these characters are loved and some of them are despised. Love it or hate it, Hazbin Hotel and the Helliverse at large is a fascinating case study in villains and fandom favoritism, and that is what we're going to be honing in on today to help us write a good villain. So first up, let's take a look at part 1, loved versus hated villains. Disclaimer, this video is about fandom and the internet's feelings about something. It doesn't necessarily reflect my personal feelings. It is observational. Okay, so let's say you're writing a villain. First up, do you want your audience to love them or hate them? And once you know how you want your audience to feel about this villain, you now have to figure out how you are going to achieve this audience response. You have to ask what makes a villain likable and what makes them unlikable. To figure this out, we're going to look at the secret list, which I call the hierarchy of evil. This is something that I have noticed in almost every fandom and the internet at large. This list includes all crimes you can possibly commit and is essentially an unspoken categorization of most passable to most unforgivable acts according to the internet mob. Let's look at some of the Hazbin characters and see where their crimes fall on this list. Naturally, we have the fandom favorites, Angel Dust and Alistair. So Angel Dust's crimes include murder and other acts of violence, gambling and drug use. Sure, that's a crime. And most importantly, Angel is actively seeking redemption. Therefore, we have never seen him in his truly sinful state, and people are actively rooting for his redemption. Alistair's crimes include murder and other acts of violence, manipulation, and cannibalism. So all of these crimes, they're pretty low on the fandom's hierarchy of evil, apparently. For the most part, the fandom doesn't really judge people for having any of these characters as their favorites. No one is really praying for their downfall, or at least I don't think they are. Now for the V's. They are the main villains of season 2 if we disregard the whole thing going on with Loot. And this is compared to last season's main villain, who was Adam, as in the first man. So Vox's crimes include greed, exploitation, manipulation, violence, narcissism, brainwashing, and murder and enabling. Velvet, same thing, different font. These crimes are in the middle of the hierarchy of evil. You're probably not going to get much shit if either of these characters are your faves, and a lot of the fandom openly adores them. And then you have the fandom's most hated villain, Valentino. On average, the Hazbin fandom considers him the least likable villain. He is the one that most people in the fandom want to see beaten. And when I say beaten, I mean old school cartoon dunked in goo, the villain is defeated. His crimes are all the same ones as the other Vs, but with a focus on sexual exploitation. He's basically a pimp. He runs a porn studio and we see him mistreat his stars, specifically angel dust. Now here's the thing, we also see Velvet and Box mistreat their staff. Velvet literally sets fire to somebody and she starves her models to keep them skinny. And I do want to point out that Adam literally killed one of the good guys in season 1 and was actively trying to kill them all. And yet I don't feel like the fandom is as sour to Adam as they are to Valentino. So from this, we can gauge the Hazbin Hotel fandom's hierarchy of evil. According to this list, sex-related crimes put you at the top of the hierarchy of evil. These are considered the most unforgivable. But almost on par with that is actively witnessing a character mistreating a fandom favorite, in this case, angel dust. It is more specifically that we witness Valentino doing his evil deeds to a character we love that puts him so far up on the list, as opposed to the other characters who we more vaguely have a sense of their crimes without ever really seeing them, let alone seeing them done to a fandom favorite character. So then on the list you've got cannibalism, murder, torture. They're considered not as severe, especially if we don't really see them. Then things like theft, drug use, they're at the bottom. This is the unspoken hierarchy of evil. There's also other secret categories like how attractive is the villain in question and are they male or female? Now, whether you consider it lazy writing or not, I know a lot of people consider essay-related plot lines to be very poorly executed, and I would agree that is sometimes the case. I actually consider Valentino to be a good villain because much of the fandom are waiting with bated breath to see him get his comeuppance. This isn't simply because his crime is at the top of the hierarchy of evil, but because of his direct relationship to a fandom favorite character. If Angel Dust is the metaphorical dog, then Valentino shot him. This is opposed to, say, Alistair, who, despite being an active villain, he has Husk Soul, he made the deal with Charlie, we know that he's up to something. The fandom, for the most part, are not really waiting for his downfall. In a series full of characters like Alistair, you also need Valentinos. A true villain can be funny, they can have iconic moments. I mean, I love watching Valentino's scenes, I always find them super entertaining, but for the most part, they should act as a foil to the good guys. You should actively want to see their downfall. You need villains who you want to and are excited by the idea of seeing them get what's coming. My personal preference would be some kind of battering delivered by Asmodeus in the inevitable Helliverse Hazbin crossover. Just throwing that out there. But this is the catch-22 of villainy in modern fandom. You need your villains to do evil things. And this means you're not going to like them. You can't really have only good villains. It doesn't really work. It's not possible. You need evil ones too. You can see from the outcry at all of the Disney animations recently, people are getting really salty about this lack of true villains. Now, there are numerous ways to achieve a high level of vitriol towards your villain, but when writing a villain, you want to consider your universe's and your potential fandom's personal hierarchy of evil. Because it doesn't just influence the audience, it influences what you can and can't do with that character later. You have questions you need to ask yourself. Are their crimes aimed at a beloved character? How evil are they comparatively to other characters in your universe? Is the character seeking redemption, or will they ever seek redemption? This is important because some crimes will be considered totally irredeemable or will be viewed differently in different contexts. So, next up, part 2, what makes a good villain? This is just going to be a quick part of the video. If we follow the classic D&D alignment chart of evil, there's 3 basic categories. I'm going to go through and give some examples and then explain why these characters work so well. Lawful evil. Good examples include Judge Claude Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, and Light Yagami, and, you know, Lucifer, not the Hazbin version, the Paradise Lost Milton version. They follow a set of rules and enact their cruelty with a higher power or vision in mind, be that anything from religion to law. Examples in the Helliverse would include Satan and the angels. Next, we have the often debated category of neutral evil. This includes Lady Macbeth from Macbeth, Littlefinger and Cersei Lannister from Game of Thrones, or Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. Neutral evil usually acts within their own selfish interests, be that whether it follows the rules or not. They're opportunists and manipulators. This would also include the V's from Hazbin Hotel. Last up is everyone's favorite category, chaotic evil. Here we have Jinx from Arcane, the Joker, Ramsay Bolton to an extent, and Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3. These characters are unpredictable. They act entirely outside of laws, rules, and order. Their plans are based purely on impact and emotion, with little to no care for the fallout afterwards. A good example in Hazbin Hotel would be Nifty. Every character I've named here is a good villain in that you either completely understand and empathize with them, making them an interesting and complex character to watch, or you absolutely hate them and you are frothing at the mouth for their downfall and will feel immense satisfaction when they are finally taken down. As a writer, that's really the only two outcomes I hope for when I'm writing a villain, other than the secret third category, which is you'd put them on a hear me out cake. All writers want one of three things for their villains: for you to love them, hate them, or want to fuck them. So that leads us to our last category, which is part 3. Can they be redeemed? Obviously, it's so fun to see a villain get their ass handed to them on a plate, but sometimes you want a little redemption arc. You want to see them get redeemed. Yes, you do. It's not easy to do, and it's not easy to do well. So how do you do it? What works and what doesn't? And most importantly, how do you make sure your audience feels like the character has been worthy of their redemption? The first way is to make the villain themselves empathetic. Fascinatingly, I've observed that the hierarchy of evil works in the opposite way with villainous characters, in that depending what category they have been subjected to on the list, will make the audience feel more sympathetic to their cause. This is not to say that abuse excuses abuse, but just that I have noticed that a fandom is more open to a character's plight if they have witnessed this. Astarion is a perfect example of this. He fits into the two secret categories of being a man and being attractive, and he has been subject to the top of the hierarchy of evil. He has spent eons being tortured and sexually abused while never committing any of the top spots himself in front of the viewer, or in this case, the player. This makes him, to a large portion of the fandom, totally redeemable and their precious little baby. Unless the individual commits the heinous crime of ascending him, which involves turning him truly evil and having him become the very thing he despised, in which case, hilariously, it is the player of the game who is seen as the villain. Another example, of course, is Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He never commits a crime bad enough to land him in one of the top spots of the hierarchy of evil, and he has been subject to much of the list himself. We constantly follow him and his journey alongside the good guys. We completely empathize with him. We understand his struggle. We know him as well as we know the good characters. So these characters can all achieve redemption through the choice to simply be better and do better. But what if that is not an option? Then we have the next way of redeeming a character, which is through punishment. Now, the thing about Hazbin Hotel is that at its core, it is a story about redemption. The main character, Charlie Morningstar, believes that all people are worthy of redemption. It is the very plot of the show. Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel is really deconstructing the very idea of villains, and the fundamental message challenges our feelings about judgment and justice. Would Charlie accept Valentino into her hotel of redemption if he truly changed his ways? Yes, she probably would. But would the fandom be satisfied with this outcome? No, they probably would not. Fandom can be sated on their feelings towards a truly evil villain only if they feel they have been appropriately punished. Enter Theon Greyjoy. Theon Greyjoy commits a heinous crime in betraying the Starks. I hated this character so much when he did what he did. I remember watching the show and thinking, I hate this guy so much, I want to see truly terrible things happen to him. And then, you know what? terrible things did happen to him, and I watched them, and I didn't like it. It made me feel bad. Made me feel real bad. And I was very happy for him when he got to be redeemed and not getting horribly tortured anymore. But Theon's crime was so great that he couldn't be redeemed until he suffered. The viewer would not have accepted it. His experience needed to be so terrible as to make the viewer not feel satisfied, but gorged. We began to feel sick, overfed with his torment, and we wanted it to stop. At which point, his potential for redemption has been achieved. But what if even that is not enough? This takes us to the final redemption for the most evil of them all, death. When your villain has done such terrible things that there's simply no way they can be redeemed, there's one more little writing trick you can pull, which is having them sacrifice themselves. Kylo Ren and Darth Vader. Let me tell you, it wasn't until I was writing this video that I was like, oh my god, they're a parallel. Kylo Ren wanted to be like Granddaddy Darth Vader the whole time, and he finally achieved it in his dying moments when he sacrificed himself for the good. Like, okay, I will give them that. So yeah, there's empathy, punishment, and death. And sometimes there's all three. Right, okay, thank you for watching my little old video about villains. I hope you have found it at all helpful in your writing journey. Would love to know some of your fave villains, redemption arcs, truly evil ones who got their comeuppance and it was so juicy and tasty. And your fave hear me outs, hit me up, love it. If you've made it this far, this video was the first in my new like writing and pop culture series, which is basically what I want to be focusing on from now on. So next month is going to be Wicked for Good, so look out for that. As usual, huge thank you to my Patreons. I love you guys so much. It's been so helpful having you guys to bounce ideas off and talk about things and do the early announcements and get feelers. I really appreciate you and the way you keep this channel going. And please everyone, buy my book. Please go buy the new paperbacks that have just been announced. I'm so serious. Please do it. I have to sell these books. Okay, love you all. Bye.